What's going on, Not Move Nation? Today is October 5th at 8:41 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm here with JB Sport Talk. What's going on, man?
What's up? Not moved. What's going on? Better.
Just chilling, man. So we got a game starting here pretty soon.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
see. It's Minnesota at Cleveland at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So here in less than an hour. Bro, I literally DM'd you to ask if you're going live as soon as I sent it to you. It went live. Let's go.
Oh,
Glad to have you with us today. Blessed up, P. Hope you're having
blessed
a
up,
great
Pete.
day. Those were some good fights
Yes.
last night too. Blessed up, P. I saw you posted about those fights. So yeah, hopefully you had a good evening last night. So Minnesota at Cleveland. This game is being played in London, England, and the Vikings lead the all-time series 12-5 against Cleveland. Last that I checked, the Vikings were favored by about 3.5 points. And the over under last that I saw was at 36 and a half. If it's still at that 36 and a half, these two teams have gone over that total in the last 7 out of 10 meetings. Dylan Gabriel is the projected starter for Cleveland. Is that what you're hearing too, JB?
Yeah. He's starting.
Okay. And, I see that Cleveland has a slight passing advantage, but that could be different with Gabriel starting today. It makes it a little bit more difficult for me to pinpoint, what's going to happen in games whenever we have a big quarterback change like this, especially with a quarterback that I don't know much about. But the passing play percentage and the line suggests that Minnesota will call a higher percentage of rushing plays, and Cleveland will call a higher percentage of passing plays. Somebody personally that I was looking at in this game was Judkins. Okay. Last that I checked, his over under on rushing yards was 76 and a half. The Minnesota Vikings ranked 24th in rushing yards allowed per game. They ranked 22nd in opponent rushing yards per attempt. With that being said, Judkins ranks 18th in yards per carry. All right. So I think there is a possibility that Judkins picks up some big gains in this game. Also, Minnesota allows the ninth most rushing yards to running backs. And this was before the Thursday night football game. So these numbers might not be 100% accurate, but they're going to be really close. The only problem I see with Judkins is the fact that, Cleveland calls a very, very high percentage of passing plays, but that could change with Gabriel, and and the fact that Cleveland's projected to lose this game. If they're trailing near the end of the game, they're not going to be handing the ball off to Judkins. They're going to be trying to air it out. But other than that, I think Judkins is in a great spot here. Now, when it comes to like third down conversion advantages, red zone conversion advantages, and things of that nature, I don't really see a clear advantage except Minnesota has a pretty good red zone attempts per game advantage against Cleveland. But I'm seeing that Cleveland has a pretty good sacks on the quarterback advantage, a really good sacks on the quarterback advantage. Both of these teams, when I checked on Thursday, ranked seventh best in team sacks per game. But no other team has allowed more sacks to their quarterback than Minnesota this season. And then I also see that Minnesota has a big turnover differential advantage, just in case you guys were wondering. JB, who are you leaning towards in this game? Do you think Minnesota wins this game by 4+ points, or do you think Cleveland keeps it close?
The one thing that I do want to note about this game,
Yeah.
from my understandings, is Minnesota never came back from being overseas. They just stayed overseas, which is a
Mm.
lot smaller trip to go from Ireland to London, right? Than just
Wow.
to go from Ireland to the United States, right? I mean, it's only 7 days. Why? You know what I mean? I mean, by the time you get back, you're gonna turn right back around, go back out. Um, so like I said, as far as I know, like I said, I seen them do a little map thing. I like Minnesota. Um, But man, something about that Cleveland defense, like if it is true, okay, let's put it like this. If the rumors are true that Minnesota State out there, I got to go with Minnesota just because of travel time, right? Being out there, having everything, being, contingent, being able to keep on with your schedule and stuff. If not, though, I'm going with Cleveland. Cleveland's got the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL right now. And I see them. I mean, I seen a crazy stat. Okay, right now, oh man, I don't want to botch this, but Cleveland right now is allowing it's like 50 sack or 50 yards less, or so, it's so many yards less, which is the least amount of yards that's happened in over 50 years. They
Wow.
they have the most stout defense in the last 50 years. I wish I knew I remembered exactly what it was, but yeah, I gotta go with Cleveland if the rumors are not true. I think that defense right now
That's who I'm leaning with in this game too. Cleveland on that spread. I
yeah,
don't feel great about it, but that's I definitely feel more confident about other things today. But that's just the way that I would lean. I think the biggest, concern for me is I don't know necessarily what I'm going to get from Dylan Gabriel.
right.
But we talked about it. I believe it was on our first look show. We saw that Cleveland scored the second least amount of points per game. So a quarterback change doesn't sound like the worst idea for this offense. And
Mhm.
I think really they can't get any worse. They could only get better with that offense. So yeah, I'm leaning towards Cleveland. Hey, Michael. Yeah, it's Browns for me too, depending on the quarterback performance. Yeah. So, I think that's you know, the biggest concern for me. But I feel confident enough to pick Cleveland to cover that spread today. I mean, I think Minnesota's going to have a tough time moving the ball, specifically on the ground. Cleveland ranks first in rushing yards allowed per game. Cleveland ranks fourth in passing yards allowed per game, and Minnesota is not a high prolific passing team, at least when Wentz is back there. But they rank 24th in passing yards per game. So I think that Minnesota offense has their hands full today. Give me Cleveland on that spread here. First half over under 17 and a half. I don't necessarily specialize in first half lines. I think there's probably some good resources out there, like first half NFL. I'll just type it in my browser here. I don't know, against ATS. So let's take a look here. I'm looking at evanalytics.com and first half spread is what I'm going to filter this by. And let's see, Blessed Up P, how do you feel about first half over under 17 and a half? So let's go look at first half total. Let's filter this by first half total. Oh, okay. Oh, it says I need a login to access this information. So, I mean, what about this? Yeah, I don't know, Blessed Up P. But it looks like there are some good sources out there that could help you with that. You just kind of got to look around if that's what you're interested in. But, personally, I think this game goes over. So I would think that it goes over the 17 and a half. I know these are, Cleveland's defense is really good and all that. And honestly, Minnesota's pass defense ranks third in passing yards allowed per game. So they look good, at least defending against that pass. Minnesota's weak against that run. They rank 24th in rushing yards allowed per game. I think that's where Cleveland can really capitalize in this game when they're on the offensive side of the ball. I think Minnesota has enough skill players to score. I don't think they're going to be completely shut down with Justin Jefferson, Hawkinson.
Mm.
But yeah, it's just because it's so low, blessed up P. I would have to lean towards the over on that. But once again, I never have really specialized in first half lines. Okay, but it looks like there are some sources out there that track the first half over unders, teams' records in the first half, not just to the over under, but just ATS as well. But yeah, I would have to lean towards Cleveland. Judkins being my favorite player in this game. Anything else on this one, JB? Are you ready to move on?
I mean, I like Judkins too. I agree. Um, yeah, man. I just think the key to that whole game, to be honest with you, is like dude said, is blessed be that quarterback play. I mean, we have seen Carson Wentz get some fire every once in a while, but I just don't know, man. I think the Browns defense is just a little too stout. I know Minnesota's got a pretty good defense as well, but I don't know, man. Last year when Browns switched to Jameis Winston, I mean, Giants just did it. I'm not saying it happens every game or every team, but
Now, something
come
that
on.
I saw, bro, I mentioned that Cleveland has a big sacks on the quarterback advantage. They rank seventh in team sacks per game. Minnesota has allowed the most sacks per game to their quarterback. Something that I saw is that the Vikings are starting a guy who's never had a snap at center today and a guard who's starting for the first time. So this Cleveland
Wow.
defensive front might absolutely feast today.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I
All
really do.
right. Anything else on this one, JB?
No, I do know that they are ranked 31st in total differential. The turnover differential, that's crazy. I just seen that. Nope, we can go on.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern. Cleveland, they have the second worst turnover differential, but
And the second worst offense,
yeah.
31st. Oh
Let's see.
man.
Let's see if this quarterback change can, you know, give them that spark that they need. We have the Las Vegas Raiders at Indianapolis Colts. I believe it's Michael Pittman Jr.'s birthday. Let me type it in my search engine here. NFL birthdays today. It takes me to ProFootballReference.com.
Today or was it last week?
And yeah, today is Michael Pittman Jr.'s birthday. So if you guys are
All right.
interested in stuff like that, there you have it. The all-time series between these two teams is tied 11-11, but the Colts are 3-1 against the Raiders since they moved to Las Vegas. This game is being played on turf. Daniel Jones has a 1-1 career record against the Raiders. Last that I checked, Indianapolis is favored by 7, over under 47.5. Bowers, last that I checked, tight end for Vegas, is questionable.
I heard he's more so leaning out.
Oh, I'm seeing that he's trending towards not playing as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I actually last night we were on the air and somebody came on and was like, "Yo, Brock Bowers, what do you guys think?" And Adrian's like, "Yo," and Otis were both like, "Yo, he's out." I was like, "Man," I went over my team because I got him on both my teams in fantasy, and I pulled it up and I was like, "No, it says that he's questionable right here." You scroll down and it tells you that who is officially listed as questionable. But they're leaning toward that he is not going to play.
Yeah, that's what
So
I'm
that
seeing
was his last
too.
night.
I think this FD Daily Fantasy app does a pretty good job on player updates and who could potentially benefit from players' absences. But anyways, Alec Pierce, wide receiver for Indianapolis, looks like he is out this game. Let me double check my work here. Yes, he's out. So and Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce, there was something that I saw about him. I think he's basically really good at yards per catch. So the next guy up is going to be Mitchell, um, Oh, yeah. Mitchell ranks second in yards per catch on this Colts team, but with Pierce being out, he ranks first. And Mitchell also ranks third in yards per catch in the NFL. Now, this isn't the greatest spot because Vegas, actually, it is a pretty good spot for Mitchell because Vegas ranks 23rd in opponent yards per completion. So if you have wide receiver Mitchell on your radar today for receiving yards for the Colts, I could see that happening. Obviously, one of the concerns I have is that Indianapolis doesn't call a high percentage of passing plays. They actually rank 29th in passing play percentage. So they've been calling a high percentage of rushing plays compared to other teams in the league. And with the fact that Bowers is trending towards not playing, and with the fact that Indianapolis is favored to win this game by 7+ points, it's a kind of a dangerous spot. One guy, obviously, that I think we need to look at is Jonathan Taylor. But, Vegas, they haven't been doing terrible in regards to rushing yards allowed per game this season. They rank 13th in rushing yards allowed per game, 14th in opponent rushing yards per attempt. They are the 10th best team in rushing yards allowed to running backs. Where I think the Colts maybe get busy on the ground game is Daniel Jones. Last that I checked, his over-under on rushing yards was 17.5. Vegas ranks 10th worst in rushing yards allowed to quarterbacks. Daniel Jones has gone over that 17.5 rushing line in 2 out of 4 games this season. He has 3 rushing touchdowns this season. Last season, he went over that 17.5 rushing yards in 7 out of 10 games. Now, he's 0-2 to the over in 2 career games against the Raiders, but I would still be leaning towards Daniel Jones picking up those rushing yards. What are you feeling about that, JB? Do you think, Daniel Jones picks up 18+ rushing yards in this game?
Yeah, I do. I like it. I mean, you already know I'm on the Danny Dimes train.
Yeah.
I do like it though. I mean, they're 4th in yards per game. Danny Dimes has been doing his thing. I know as far as passing, rushing though. I mean, he's got 18 attempts, 54 yards, and 3 tutties. He's averaged, or his longest run was a 17-yard rush. Yeah, I mean, I like it. I mean, he's averaging a couple of runs a game. To be honest with you, I mean, he's about 4 games in. What? Yeah, dude. I like it. I like it. I like it. I think Daniel Jones get it. He'd be cooking.
If you guys, for some reason, like Las Vegas Raider wide receivers, if I were targeting some Raiders today, that's the way I would be going. For one, Bowers is out, which could cause some more work for those wide receivers. Secondly, Indianapolis ranks 5th worst in receiving yards allowed to wide receivers. They rank 2nd worst in receptions allowed to wide receivers. And I'm under the belief that the Raiders are going to not only opt to throw the ball in this game, but they may even be forced to throw the ball. I think somebody on my radar here is Trey Tucker, over under 39.5 receiving yards. He ranks 17th in yards per catch. Indianapolis is about middle of the pack in regards to opponent yards per completion. He ranks 3rd on this team in target share. So let me pull up this target share thing that I like to look at. It is fantasysp.com is what I'm looking at. And then I'll filter this by Las Vegas. And with Bowers being out, Trey Tucker ranks 2nd on this team in target share. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's somebody worth looking at. Even maybe Thornton, Jacoby Myers. Now, in regards to just the game itself, I see that Indianapolis has a good sized passing advantage. I see that Indianapolis has a good size rushing advantage. I see Indianapolis has a third down advantage, a red zone attempts per game advantage, a big sacks on the quarterback advantage, a big turnover differential advantage. The only thing that I could give to the Raiders is that they have a big red zone conversion advantage. Indianapolis hasn't been the greatest at converting red zone touchdowns this season, and Las Vegas has been doing really good at preventing opponents from scoring touchdowns when they enter the red zone. So that's my only tiff with Indianapolis today, but I'm definitely leaning towards Indianapolis to cover today. That -7, Indianapolis -7. What are you thinking, JB? And if you're not there, I can just go ahead and move on.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
You think the Raiders are going to cover by 7?
No, Indianapolis wins this game by 7+.
Yeah. I don't think the Raiders stand a chance, to be honest with you. I know. Yeah, I don't see them standing a chance. I mean, between their defense, total differentials, Geno Smith isn't making the best decisions or anything like that. Their defense isn't ranked very well either. Mid to later end of the deal of the rankings. I think Indianapolis obviously is just a better round team on paper and statistically.
Yeah.
So I like Danny Dimes.
Mm-hmm.
Watch him deliver that to the bank.
All right, sounds good.
Brinks truck.
I'm really looking forward to this next game that we're talking about. It is the New York Giants at New Orleans Saints. You know, last week I liked the Giants to cover and perhaps beat the Chargers, which they actually ended up winning that game.
Mm-hmm.
I have different feelings about this game. I'm liking New Orleans. But let's get into that. The Giants lead the all-time series against New Orleans 17-16. I think you mentioned this to me, or maybe Charby did. Charby's not here with us today, but the Saints, from my understanding, skipped on Dart in the draft. So I'm thinking Dart might play with an extra chip on his shoulder today. You know what I mean? But, sometimes playing with an extra chip, you still come up short. And that's what I'm expecting here today. Now, I think one of those reasons is because Neighbors is out. Tyrone Tracy is doubtful, last that I checked. Okay. So, when I'm looking at the numbers, I do see that the Giants have a slight passing advantage in this game. But New Orleans has a good rushing advantage against them. New Orleans has a third down conversion advantage against them, a slight red zone conversion advantage, a slight sacks on the quarterback advantage. So I see more advantages for New Orleans in this game than the Giants. Now, one of the reasons why I liked the Giants last week is because the Chargers ranked at the time, they ranked second worst in rushing yards allowed to quarterbacks. And the Saints, we can go take a look at what the Saints have done this season against rushing yards allowed to quarterbacks. And they rank, honestly,
right around there.
They're right. Yeah, they're actually, they've been allowing a decent amount. So maybe Dart does get a little busy still on the ground. Still, I think Dart had a bigger rushing advantage against the Chargers than he does in this game. Okay, that's where I was getting at. A player that I'm looking to target in this game is Kamara. Last that I checked, his rushing yards over under was 58.5. The Giants, let's talk about their rush defense a little bit. They rank 29th in rushing yards allowed per game. So what, 32, 31, 34th? They allow the fourth most rushing yards per game when I checked on Thursday.
Yep.
They allow the second most rushing yards per attempt to opposing teams. And Kamara ranks 35th in yards per carry this season. So I think he could come up with some big gains in this game. The Giants allow the fourth most rushing yards to running backs. He's gone over that line, that 58.5 rushing total in 2 out of 4 games of the season. He went over in 8 out of 14 games in 2024, and he's gone over that line in 3 out of 4 career games against the Giants. I like Kamara today going over that rushing line, and I think somebody else to even talk about is Kendre Miller, the other running back for New Orleans. His rushing yards was 29.5, and he ranks 25th in yards per carry. Once again, guys, the Giants are allowing the second most rushing yards per attempt. So if you're looking for a big gain, I think Kendre Miller, not only Kamara, but Kendre Miller, he ranks higher than Kamara in yards per carry. He just doesn't have as good of a history as Kamara. I think a lot of that has to do with his workload, his lack of workload. But he has played in one career game against the Giants where he had 10 carries, 32 rushing yards, and a touchdown. Also, somebody I think worth looking at. I don't necessarily like it as much as the other two that I just mentioned, but Spencer Rattler over the 16.5 rushing yards. The Giants allow the 7th most rushing yards to quarterbacks this season. When I checked on Thursday, he went over that line in 4 out of 7 games in 2024. I think, if you guys like Rattler rushing yards, I would have to lean towards him getting that more than I wouldn't. Obviously, I don't think all 3 of these players go over. I mean, they could, but if I had to pick one, I'd go with Kamara.
How's their offensive line out there in New Orleans? Pretty rattly.
Offensive line, in regards to like sacks allowed per game, they rank 17th. So right about middle of the pack in sacks allowed to their quarterback per game.
See, last week they were able to rattle Spencer in the pocket. And well, hold on. The Giants were rattling. Oh boy! All right, Herbert. They had a 47.7 percentage of quarterback pressure rate. Right, so just about half the time they're putting pressure on this guy. There's no success back there. You can't have that much pressure and be successful, right? As much as they got to him. The other thing is between these quarterbacks that he just played, I mean, it's a way different Rattler. I mean, really, what has Rattler done, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Saints did put up some. I mean, last week we were watching, we're like, man, dude, the Saints could be doing it. I know the last time the Saints and the Giants played was Eli Manning and Drew Brees. With Drew Brees coming out on top, right? Barely. I like the Giants still, man. I can see what you're saying. But I just don't see. I think with the Giants defense, man, the pressure that they can put on the defense, and the offensive unit. I mean, you got Scatterboo, I know they're without Malik Neighbors, but they were still putting up points without Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors didn't play the whole game and just go out and they fell, or it wasn't like they were, up and then he got injured and they were like, oh my God, what do we do? No, they were still putting up points. They were still scoring. He was using his legs. I don't like Kamara. Kamara's averaging a 3.9 average per carry right now. I mean, I know you run it 3 times, that's a first down, right? But I just don't. He's not very successful right now, man.
So you're thinking Giants cover that? Last time I checked, it was 2.5. Let's say it's 2.5. You think Giants either win the game or lose by exactly 1 or 2 points?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think the Giants win.
Actually, that line changed. I think it's now New Orleans minus 1.5 when I was looking this morning. But even if it is, man, yeah, I like New Orleans today. I still got to go with New Orleans. I understand the hesitance. I mean, New Orleans hasn't won a game this year,
Right.
It's
and they were sticking with Buffalo, but sometimes, and we all know this, I mean, sometimes the better teams play down, right?
Yeah.
Buffalo didn't lose, so, I mean, any given Sunday, I mean, teams can, I mean, let's just go back to last year. You had the Carolina Panthers get into a fight and almost, conquer the two teams that were in the Super Bowl later that year. Happens, and I just don't think they're good enough. I'm not saying that the Giants are too much better, but
I have to mention this game or this player before we move on from this game, Darius Slayton. Okay.
yep.
I don't know what his over under on receiving yards is, but he ranks 15th in yards per catch. And with Neighbors being out, who ranks fourth best in yards per catch this year, Darius Slayton is that big chunk of yardage uh, guy for the Giants now. And he had the most receiving yards last week with Dart. And he had 4 targets, which was the second highest in target share next to Wandale Robinson and Theo Johnson, who both had 5 targets apiece. So I think, with Darius Slayton ranking 15th in yards per catch, I think that's real beneficial, specifically because New Orleans ranks 21st in opponent yards per completion. So I do think Slayton's going to have to get active in that passing game for the Giants. But yeah, you like the Giants in this one, JB. I gotta lean with the Saints, and let's move on. Dallas at the Jets, man. So I'm torn on this one, dude, because every time I feel like the Cowboys win, they lose. Every time that they lose, I feel like they're going to lose, they win. I'm unfortunately a Dallas Cowboys fan. When I was going into this show, I was thinking about taking the Jets because I think Dallas is going to win this game. And every time that I feel like, Dallas wins, they end up losing. I can't get away from Dallas in this game. I like the Cowboys minus the 2.5 is the last that I checked. What are your initial thoughts about this game, JB?
Yeah, I gotta go with Dallas. Bearing something miraculous happens to the Jets, or downfall to the Cowboys during this game or right before it, I don't see Dallas not being able to pull this out. If they don't, I'm very, very concerned.
I saw that Miles Sanders is questionable in this game. Okay, and I think that's big because Jaden Blue, rookie for Dallas, he's a rookie running back, is in line to make his debut today. I think this Jaden Blue guy, I didn't see any props when I was looking on Jaden Blue the other day, but what I did see was anytime touchdown. I think that, for a sleeper today, I think Jaden Blue is on my radar. I've heard good things about this guy. And I like him even more if Miles Sanders doesn't play. I don't know how much work Jaden Blue is going to get, but I hear that he could be on the kickoff returns team. Here he's a fast guy. So he has extra upside if he takes one to the house here against the Jets. Now, Blessed Up P says Fields anytime touchdown. Let's go take a look at that. So the Cowboys rank 6th worst in rushing yards allowed to quarterbacks. The Jets call a high percentage of rushing plays relative to the other teams in the league. They rank 27th in passing play percentage. Justin Fields ranks first in rushing yards per carry after that game, his last game, where he had that 43-yard touchdown or whatever it was. He ranks now first in rushing yards per carry. But the Cowboys, they've been doing pretty decently at limiting opponent rush yards per attempt. They rank 12th. He's played in one career game against the Cowboys, and he had 60 rushing yards off 8 carries and 1 touchdown rush. So history is on your side. We can also look at quarterback rushing touchdowns allowed by the Cowboys this year. They've allowed 2, which is the second highest. There haven't been many rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks this season. I mean, there have been, but typically we need a bigger sample size to get a little bit more accurate. But we can look at the 2024 season as well. I know it's a completely different Dallas team, but I'm interested. They allowed the most rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks in 2024. And I don't think that defense has gotten any better in regards to preventing. I mean, I could be wrong, but preventing quarterbacks from rushing it in. I would have to lean towards him getting that, blessed up, P. Right on, man. Yeah, I'd have to lean towards him. And let's talk about his rushing yards a little bit. As I mentioned, the Cowboys, they rank sixth sixth worst in rushing yards allowed to quarterbacks. Justin Fields ranks first in rushing yards per carry. I don't like Justin Fields as much as I did the other night. I said that was my favorite play in that primetime game that he was in. I think it was against the Dolphins, right? And that a big reason was because the Dolphins ranked at that time 22nd in opponent rush yards per attempt. Well, Dallas ranks 12th. So I'm a little more hesitant on Justin Fields picking up a huge gain like that again here today.
Mm.
He's gone over that rushing total in 1 out of 3 games this season, went over in 3 out of 11 games in 2024. I think that line is inflated, especially after he, ran for 80. I think it was about 80 yards in his last game. So yeah, the books have inflated that line. And I just, I would have to. It's tough to fade Justin Fields.
It is
at least picking the under on this. I'm not saying necessarily I like the under, but I don't feel confident enough for Fields to go over that rushing total here today. But once again, blessed up here, I could see him getting that touchdown, man. I like the way Fields is playing, even though Jets haven't won. I don't know. Hope he stays healthy. Yeah, man, he's a fun quarterback to watch. I love watching Justin Fields. I think he's,
I watched him out there on the the other day on some of his replays from last week. I was like, man, this dude actually got some wheels, man. This dude's pretty dangerous out there.
Yeah, he's that dual threat quarterback.
Yeah.
But guys, I mean, I see some player props that we can take advantage of in this game. I think this seems like a pretty decent game for Cowboy anytime touchdowns. And here's why. Dallas has been good at getting into the red zone this season. They rank 7th in red zone attempts per game, and they rank 8th in red zone conversion rate. So they're scoring touchdowns when they enter the red zone. They've been entering the red zone at a good rate. Now, the Jets' defense has been pretty decent at preventing that, though. They rank 12th in opponent red zone conversion rate, 8th in opponent red zone attempts per game. So I don't think it's a huge advantage for Dallas, but I do give Dallas a slight red zone conversion advantage, slight red zone attempts advantage in this one. The over-under is projected to be a decently high-scoring game. The Jets ranked 25th, guys, 25th in rushing yards allowed per game. Yeah. So the game script that I'm kind of going with is Javonte Williams to eat a little bit on the ground, and then don't be surprised to see that Jaden Blue guy I was talking about before the start of this segment to get a little bit of work. I don't know I would go do as much research as I could if I were interested in Javonte Williams props about how much of that workload that he normally gets is he not going to get with Jaden Blue being in. I don't know. I don't know. But here's what I'll say about Javonte Williams. I love Javonte Williams' receptions, even a touchdown. Yeah. So let's talk about Javonte Williams' rushing yards, over under 69.5. He ranks 14th in rushing yards per carry, and the Jets rank 15th in opponent rushing yards per attempt. So, it could be a little bit better for him. But the Jets also rank 10th worst in rushing yards allowed to running backs. Javonte Williams has gone over that line in 3 out of 4 games this season. He only went over that line in 2 out of 18 games in 2024, but he played with Denver, so he's in a different environment now. But one of the games that he went over with, guys. In last season, like I said, he only went over the 69.5 rushing yards 2 out of 18 times in 2024, but one of those games was against the Jets.
Wow.
And then he's gone over that line in 1 out of 2 career games against the Jets. There's a couple of concerns here. How much work is Jaden Blue going to take from him? Dallas is a they call a high percentage of passing plays. They call the second most passing plays percentage-wise out of every team in the league. And where was I at? And I mean, that's about it. But the game script that I'm going with is that Dallas is controlling this game. And Javonte Williams, finds the end zone. He's tied with Pickens for the most touchdowns scored on the Cowboys this season. Both of them have 4. Dad got to go to his vet.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Javonte Williams, you said even a receiving touchdown. Here's my concern about Javonte Williams receiving. The Jets rank 4th best in receiving yards allowed to running backs, and they rank the number 1 in the league at preventing running backs from receiving the ball. Let me rephrase that. Number 1 in receptions allowed to running backs. So their running back pass defense has been good this year. But, I still like Javonte Williams for a touchdown in this game.
I do too, to be honest with you. I like the way that they're just the matchup or lack of matchup. With the running game, I think it's a good fit.
And the Jets, man. So somebody that we got to talk about, man, Garrett Wilson. Okay. So let's talk about this Cowboys pass defense a little bit. They rank last in passing yards allowed per game. They are bad. They allow a ton of passing yards, the most out of any team in the league. Opponent yards per completion, they rank 2nd worst. They allow big gains. Not just do they allow the most passing yards per game, but they allow big gains when teams are passing the ball. And they rank worst. They allow the most receiving yards to wide receivers. They've allowed the most touchdowns this season to wide receivers, and by a good margin. They have allowed 9 touchdowns this season to wide receivers, and the next team, the second worst team, has allowed 6. So they've been extremely vulnerable to this wide receiver position. They rank 6th worst in receptions allowed to wide receivers. So Garrett Wilson, receiving yards over under 64.5. He leads the Jets in target share by a good amount. He gets fed the ball a lot. He's gone over that line in 3 out of 4 games this season. He's gone over that line in 1 out of his only game that he's ever played against the Cowboys. He had 2 receptions for 83 yards and a touchdown in that game. I mean, he's tied with Justin Fields on the Jets for touchdown leaders this season. They both have 3.
Get some background noise.
I like the game script. We talk about passing play percentage. So just based on that alone.
Bettors. You got some background noise pretty bad.
I got what?
Background noise pretty bad.
What about now?
Perfect. Good.
Perfect?
Yep.
Okay, sorry guys. I don't know why that was, but thanks for letting me know.
Yep.
So I don't know if you guys were hearing me about this Garrett Wilson stuff, but I think he's in a great spot here today. I think it's very well possible that Garrett Wilson goes over his receiving yards. I think it's very possible that he gets a touchdown in this game. And he could possibly go over his receptions line in this one. I think I'd be leaning more towards his receiving line, receiving yards line, and an anytime touchdown before receptions. But, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him get all 3. This is a dream spot. If Justin Fields I mean, you can't get a better situation for this if you're Justin Fields.
Not really.
If he wants to showcase his passing ability, this is the game, man. This is the game.
I agree.
Brees Hall, receiving yards and receptions, guys. I think that's definitely something to look for as well. Dallas ranks third worst in receiving yards allowed to running backs. They rank fourth worst in receptions allowed to running backs. I mean, he's the second leader in target shares on the Jets. He's gone over his receiving line in 3 out of 4 games this season. He was 50% above that line in 2024. I mean, if you guys like Brees Hall through the air today, I could definitely see that as well. I would say the only concern that I have with Javonte Williams and Brees Hall and Garrett Wilson and all these guys, it goes back to that passing play percentage. Dallas ranks second in passing play percentage. So they are calling a very high percentage of passing plays relative to the other teams in the league. Jets are calling a very high percentage of rushing plays relative to the other teams in the league. But I think that changes a little bit today with the game script that I'm going with. So I think all of those props that we talked about are definitely, worth looking at. And I mean, there are some good props, I think, in this game. George Pickens, I know he's going to be a popular player. He ranks 25th in yards per catch, second best on the Cowboys. The number one player in yards per catch on this Cowboys team is Turpin, and he's out this game. And the Jets rank 30th in opponent yards per completion. So, I mean, Pickens is in a great spot here. The Jets allow the 10th most receiving yards to wide receivers. I think Pickens could absolutely get fed the ball here today. If you like him getting a touchdown, I could see that. He's tied on the Cowboys for most touchdowns with 4 with Javonte Williams. And then Tolbert. Tolbert is the second leader in target share out of active Dallas Cowboy wide receivers today with CeeDee Lamb being out. He doesn't have the most favorable history, but what would you rather have, a good spot or favorable history? I mean, it'd be nice to have both, but Tolbert, I think, is definitely somebody, worth mentioning in this game.
Oh, absolutely.
At the end of the day, though, guys, I'm seeing Dallas has a slight third down conversion advantage, a slight red zone conversion advantage, a slight red zone attempts per game advantage, a slight sacks on the quarterback's advantage, a slight turnover differential advantage, and a slight passing advantage. The only advantage that I see for the Jets is a slight rushing advantage. Give me the Cowboys here. Anything else on this game, JB?
No, I like the Cowboys as well. Never said, man, it's just too lopsided.
I know that game breakdown took a little bit, but there's just a lot of player props that I had wrote down here, and I think that's a good game to zone in on player props if you guys like them.
Yeah.
All right, Denver at Philadelphia. The Eagles lead the all-time series 9-5 against Denver. So if the Eagles won today is October 5th, as many of you guys know. If you didn't know that, now you know. But the Eagles lead the all-time series 9-5. If they win this game against the Broncos today, they go 10-5 against the Broncos all-time on 10-5.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Also, on this day in history, I believe Dante Hall returned that kick against Denver. You remember when he it was like the human joystick?
Yep.
He ran up, then he ran backwards. I mean, that was back when we were kids, but
yep, that's how you got that human joystick name right there, guys.
So, for you may want to fact check me on that, but Denver historically on this day didn't do so well, at least in that Chiefs game. Anyways, let's get down to the game data here. I'm seeing that Denver has a pretty decent sized passing advantage, okay? And a lot of that reason being is because Philadelphia ranks 31st in passing yards per game. So they're not getting a bunch of passing yards Also, they call the highest percentage of rushing plays out of any team in the league. So they are very run focused. And even with all that run focusedness that Philadelphia has, I still give Denver a rushing advantage in this game. Denver ranks fifth in rushing yards per game this year. Philadelphia ranks 21st in rushing yards allowed per game, whereas Philadelphia ranks 16th in rushing yards per game. Denver ranks 11th in rushing yards allowed per game. So I do give Denver a good sized rushing advantage in this game. I also
Oh, shoot.
I also give Denver a huge sacks on the quarterback advantage on both sides of the ball. Denver, no other team sacks the quarterback more times per game than the Broncos this season. Philadelphia is average at protecting their quarterback. They rank 17th in quarterback sacks allowed per game. Philadelphia is not sacking quarterbacks at a high rate per game this year. They rank 26 in team sacks per game, and no other team protects their quarterback better than the Broncos protect Bo Nix. They rank first in quarterback sacks allowed per game. So I think Denver has three huge advantages in this game: the passing, the rushing, and the sacks advantage. Where I see Philadelphia is that they have a slight third down conversion advantage, a slight red zone conversion advantage, a slight red zone attempts per game advantage, and a big turnover differential advantage. So it's kind of like, which one is more important, Denver's advantages or Philadelphia's advantages? Here's the thing about Philadelphia. They're undefeated this year, and they're not statistically just popping off the charts. This team is doing something that, and I was talking about it with somebody yesterday. Like, I think with Philadelphia, you can't read too much into these guys' statistics. I mean,
No, not really.
honestly, they don't have anything that's just like, wow, they're really good at this, they're really good at that. Dude, they just win games.
Yep. It's a lot about how it was last year with the Chiefs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So, man, this is a very, very tough game for me to call. Somebody that I do like in this game, guys, J.K. Dobbins. All right. Philadelphia ranks 26 in opponent rushing yards per attempt. And Dobbins ranks 7th in rushing yards per carry this season. So I think there's a good chance Dobbins can get some big gains. Same with Harvey. He ranks 12th in the NFL in rushing yards per carry. I think both of these guys could have some big gains if Denver opts to run the ball, which, they will. But
it's going to be a very good game. Very good game.
Dobbins has gone over his rushing line in 4 out of 4 games this season, 100%. He's gone over that line in 8 out of 14 games in 2024. I think he's definitely somebody worth looking at in this game. I don't know who to go with, guys. Who are you leaning towards, JB?
Man, I'm gonna go with Denver
to cover that spread.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Denver.
Oh man. What are the chances of Saquon getting 100+ yards? Let's go see Saquon Barkley's history against Denver. Barkley versus let's see, Barkley game log. It takes me to ESPN.com. I'll go to that game log and see how many times he's played against Denver throughout his history to see if he has any, favorable history. While I'm doing that, JB, what are your thoughts on Barkley getting 100+ yards against the Denver rush defense, who has allowed they rank 11th in rushing yards allowed per game. So they're above average, their rush defense. What do you think the chances are of Barkley getting 100+ yards today?
I really think that's going to be the only way that they have a chance in the game, right? I think they get shut down through the pass, and Barkley becomes that guy for them. I think that he could get away with that. I think he's going to get that 100 yards on him. I know he went like 66 or 84 all-purpose yards on the Chiefs. The Chiefs have not let, and see that's the difference between them. Denver is a no-fly zone. Denver is that passing defense, you know what I mean, or was last year. Kansas City's always been able to stop that or stops that run. I'm not going to give. What's up, Charby? I'm not going to give them the. I just see, that's what they do. That's what Philly does is run the ball. And I'm just sorry, I haven't seen any reason to say that they're not going to be able to beat them or stop them in the run. I think they can stop them in the pass, and that's about it.
Barkley's played one career game against Denver, and he did not go over that rushing total. But Barkley had 100-plus rushing yards in 14 out of 20 games last season.
Yeah.
I think he'll get fed the ball today. And Denver ranked 16th in opponent rushing yards per attempt. So they're not like great or terrible at allowing big chunks of yardage to running backs. Let's go see what, yards per carry. Yards per rush attempt in the NFL. Let's go see what Saquon ranks this season.
Saquon's not. He's mid. I mean,
he ranks 46. I would have to lean towards his under, man.
I get that. Like I said, I just don't. I don't know. I don't see no reason that he won't get it this week.
This is probably the toughest game for me to call this weekend, guys. I mean, man, I want to go Denver. I'm a statistics guy. I like what I see here with the Broncos statistically, but give me the Broncos on the spread here. Give me the Broncos on the spread here. Final answer.
I like it.
Barkley, he looks more lost in car keys, says Charby. Miami and Carolina. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about in that Philadelphia Broncos game?
No, not really.
I won't be surprised to see Philly win, but I think Broncos cover. Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel more confident about Broncos covering than Philly covering, and I feel more confident about a Broncos covering than Philly winning. So give me the Broncos to cover this one. Also, something worth mentioning is the Broncos absolutely need this game. You know what I mean? They're 2-2 right now. Imagine knocking off the Super Bowl with the season that they've had so far. Imagine knocking off the Super Bowl defending champions in Philadelphia. What you know that this team is ready to go, and can you imagine what that'll do for this locker room?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
They will be ready to go. This will be a morale boost if the Broncos get this win. They'll feel like they have a legit chance at winning the Super Bowl when they have a 3-2 record.
Yep.
And I think the Broncos, man,
they need it, like you said, they need it more than Philly does. Yeah. Right? Like you said,
this is the game where I like the Broncos' chances to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of the season. This is the game. If they don't win this game, count me out on the Broncos. If they get this dub, I do think that they are big contenders. But put me in, they've lost the two most important. I wouldn't say the most important, but the two toughest opponents that they played this year. They lost Indianapolis and the Chargers. They've lost both of those games. We see that the Broncos can beat Tennessee and Cincinnati. Can they beat the Eagles on the road in Philadelphia today, man?
I mean, wasn't those games? I know it's but I mean, wasn't it like due to a leverage call that hasn't been called in 30 years? You know what I mean? They lost the game on a kind of a BS technicality. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not like they really lost that game. If that play wasn't called and they blocked that kick, we're talking different story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Good point, man. Good point. Yeah. Maybe they're still contenders even if they lose this game. But I just feel like this is a game that Denver's has to win.
Wow. Minnesota just fumbled the ball. Browns got it.
Nice. Yeah. We were talking about, that Browns defense, Now, we did mention Minnesota had a turnover differential advantage, but, man, that Browns defense, They're good, man. Which way were you leaning? Denver to cover this spread too, JB?
Yeah. I'm not gonna be surprised that if Philly wins it, but yeah.
Right. Me neither. Okay. Miami at Carolina. Miami leads the all-time series 6-2 against Carolina. Tua has a 2-0 career record against Carolina throughout his career. Last that I checked, Miami's favored by 1.5 points. I really liked Chuba Hubbard going into this game, but he's out. Okay. And so is Tyreek Hill. So, with that being said, a big weapon for both of these teams are out. So, the next man up should be Rico Dowdle for the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, he's projected to get that's 2 rushing yards over 1.5 easy money, says Blessed Up P. So Rico Dowdle, man, let's look
That's
at
crazy easy money right there.
So something interesting with Dowdle. I like Dowdle in this game, and here's why. Miami allows the third most rushing yards per game to opposing teams. Okay. Miami allows the fourth most rushing yards per attempt. Okay. And when Dowdle in 2024, when he had 18 plus carries in 2024 last season, when he had 18 plus carries in a game, he was a perfect 100% to the over his 61.5 rushing yard line today. He was go look at his game log if you guys don't want to take my word for it. Back in 2024, 100%, 7 to the over 61.5 rushing yards when he had 18 plus carries. If he gets a bulk of the carries today, which I would expect he does, I love this play. Also, Miami allows the sixth most rushing yards to quarterbacks. Big gains. Yeah, I think Dowdle's in a good spot here. Waller for a touchdown. Yeah, so Carolina does rank second worst in receiving yards allowed to tight ends. And we saw Darren Waller, and then that's not necessarily talking about touchdowns, but let's go look at the red zone conversion rates and attempts per game. Miami doesn't get into the red zone too often. They rank 24th in red zone attempts per game. Carolina's been doing decently at preventing their opponents from entering the red zone. They rank 16th in opponent red zone attempts per game. So right there, I'm a little concerned. But when Miami does get in the red zone, they have the second best red zone conversion rates. Let's go look at tight end receiving touchdowns allowed by Carolina this season. They rank they've allowed 2. There hasn't been a lot of tight end receiving touchdowns this year. So the worst team is Seattle, San Francisco, a handful of teams who have allowed 3 receiving touchdowns to tight ends. Carolina's allowed 2. Let's go check in 2024. Carolina
These Browns are about to score. They're just driving down the field. The running game, Judkins, 30-yard, 5. Yep.
So Carolina, we were mentioning that. I love Judkins in this game, but Carolina. Let's get back to the question here. Carolina, they allowed the most receiving touchdowns to tight ends last year. So if last season is any indication on Darren Waller scoring a touchdown today, I gotta lean towards him doing that. Now, from my understanding, though, Tua typically doesn't like to target tight ends, but he did last week, and Waller had 2 touchdowns. And with Tyreek Hill being out, man, I feel like he's got to continue that trend. Does Tua like to throw to tight ends? Is what I'll type in my search engine here.
He had a decent year with Jonnu Smith last year, I think. Jonnu Smith had decently had one of actually his best year of his career with Tua Miami.
It looks like Tua really. Darren Waller getting those touchdowns last week was surprising to me because Tua, from my understanding, doesn't like to typically target tight ends.
Yeah, but he also hasn't had a tight end, like per se. You know what I mean?
True.
Like
True.
honestly, like what are you gonna do? Are you gonna go with Joe Schmo and Noah Gray and throw the ball to Noah Gray, or are you gonna throw it to Tyreek Hill and Waller or HN? I'm going in one of these guys that are getting me 1,900 yards versus you. I don't know who you are. You're just chipping. You're just helping block. That's what they use their tight ends a lot for.
You're right.
So if you look at like okay, so like what I gotta say about that, right? Um, Jonnu Smith last year had the best year of his career
Mhm.
in Miami under Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith loved Jonnu Smith. Um, just look though. I mean, the thing is, man, I'm gonna say that he's gonna be more of a blanket for him and more comfort because you also haven't been seeing Jalen Waddle really being going off. Now that Tyreek Hill's out, Tyreek Hill was that guy in that game. I see Darren Wall. I picked him up. I put him in my starting lineup.
I think you're on the right track, JB. And here's another thing: Carolina, believe it or not, allows the fewest receiving yards to wide receivers this year, and
Mm,
the second fewest receptions to wide receivers.
wow.
So, really, one of their biggest defensive vulnerabilities, and honestly, it is their biggest passing defensive vulnerability and their biggest rushing defensive vulnerability. It's their biggest defensive vulnerability to that tight end position. I think it'd be very smart of Miami to utilize Darren Waller a lot today in that pass game. Did I see somebody say Achan receptions? Yeah, blessed
Yep.
up P. Achan receptions. Carolina,
Touchdown, Cleveland.
who was it?
It was a. They're at the 3. Let's see. They're like pause for a split second.
Probably Judkins. Did they throw it?
No, they threw it to a tight end number 44. Yep, they play action rolled out. Fannin Jr. number 44 caught
Yeah,
a touchdown
solid.
pass.
Yeah, Fannon's solid, dude.
Yep. Good shit. Good shit.
Somebody said Achan. Okay, so Achan, Carolina's been doing decently at limiting receiving yards and receptions to running backs. Achan is a workhorse in that passing game, though. Just maybe not a place I'm specifically looking to target today, but I don't hate it. If you like it, I don't really have enough information about it, but
Bueller.
but I could see it. He is a workhorse, and especially with Tyreek Hill being out,
Yep.
blessed up he.
Yeah.
HN could very well see a workload increase. Something that I was looking at is HN's rushing yards. Okay, so Carolina ranks 27th in opponent rushing yards per attempt. They rank 23rd in rushing yards allowed per game. So to simplify that for you, or for anybody listening right now, Carolina has a bad rush defense. And Achan is picking up a good chunk of yards per carry. He ranks 15th in the NFL in rushing yards per carry. Carolina ranks 6th worst in rushing yards allowed to running backs. I think it's something worth looking at. I think, yeah, Achan just in general is something worth looking at. But I'm gonna go with Carolina today, and I would probably feel more confident with Darren Waller than I would Achan because I think Carolina wins this game, even with Chuba Hubbard being out. They beat the Atlanta Falcons 30-0 in week 3 when the game was in Carolina. Carolina, all their games that they've lost this year were on the road. So you tell me who's a better team, Atlanta or Miami without Tyreek Hill? And Miami is going to Carolina. Now, Chuba Hubbard may have been in that game, but I think Rico Dowdle is good enough to you know replace Chuba. And I don't even know if Chuba was in that game or not. But look, man, that's just the way I'm leaning in this one. Carolina gets the job done here. JB?
Oh man. Dude, it's really hard for me to pick against Carolina, to be honest with you.
And their grittiness at the end of the season last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like Carolina. But after what I seen from Miami the other night, right? It wasn't like, too great, right? But I'm
Yeah, they beat the Jets, man. I get it. And I thought the Jets were going to actually take that game.
hold on one sec. So I'm looking at this real quick.
Miami
Hold on.
caught me off guard. But San Francisco caught me off guard against Jacksonville. You called that one last week. San Francisco caught me off guard. Jacksonville ended up winning that game. But, San Francisco, I went right back to them on this, what was it, Thursday Night Football. I went right back to San Francisco, even with all those injuries, and they got the job done. So I'm gonna go. I went against Miami last week. I'm gonna go against them here, not just because of that, but just I'm seeing that Carolina. I'm seeing that Carolina has a slight passing advantage, a slight rushing advantage. I'm seeing that Carolina has a slight red zone attempts per game advantage, a slight turnover differential advantage.
Way away. Well, yeah, a slight turnover differential, but in the total defensive interceptions, like astronomically, like way different. Like you're going from 30th to 6th place. Okay, so I know last week their secondary was really injured. How's Miami's? What about this week? Is their secondary still that bad?
Not sure, but for people interested in getting some action on this game, definitely might be a factor, an important factor.
This is the first game last week that Tua also did not throw an interception. I'm gonna go with Carolina. I'm gonna ride it. I'm just gonna go with Carolina. I think with the way that Tua's turning over the ball, I don't think he's really cleaned it up that much just because last week, he was playing the Jets.
If this game was in Miami, I would probably go Miami, but it's in Carolina.
Yeah.
They won 30-0 against Atlanta in Carolina this year. I think they get the job here done again.
Yeah, Bryce Young's throwing 60.4%, but Tua's throwing 69.
Yeah, I mean, so if Miami even had Tyreek Hill in this game, I'd be like, okay, Miami. But I think Tyreek Hill's absence is bigger than Chuba Hubbard's. I think and I think it just comes down to Rico Dowdle being able to step in and fill that void more so than the other Miami players. So, yeah, give me Carolina here. Let's move on. Houston at Baltimore. Wow. CJ. I'm thinking I'm going to go Baltimore here. So Baltimore leads the all-time series 13-2 against Houston. Baltimore has won 6 games in a row against Houston. CJ Stroud has a 0-3 career record against Baltimore. That includes a playoff loss. Yet Houston's favored to win this game because Lamar Jackson's out. I think Cooper Rush is a good enough backup quarterback to step in and put Baltimore in position here. But I don't necessarily put this all on Cooper Rush. You know who I think is going to have a good game is the running back. Derrick Henry. I think
it fits more into their scheme. With Cooper Rush, I think. Well, hopefully, with this being said,
that they stick to the run because that's where Cooper Rush is, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is what we need to do with Lamar. You know, a lot of play action. That's what I think.
Yeah, I understand that Baltimore's defense hasn't been the best this year, Charby. I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Also, dude, I
They
mean,
got 13 injuries. They had 13 injuries.
Houston, with that said, give me Baltimore. That's funny. Houston does have a big sacks on the quarterback advantage here, man. They're sacking the quarterback pretty good. They rank 7th best in sacks per game. Baltimore allows the 3rd most sacks to their quarterbacks this season. So, just based on that, I think all this game comes down to is Derrick Henry going to be able to impose his will against this Houston rush defense, who's really not that bad, right? They rank 12th rushing yards allowed per game, which is average. But they are allowing a good chunk of yardage per rush attempt. They rank 18th, and Derrick Henry ranks 5th best in rushing yards per attempt. Derrick Henry has scored a touchdown in 8 out of 15 career games against Houston, and Derrick Henry has favorable history against Houston. He actually recorded his single-game rushing record against the Houston Texans. He recorded 250 yards against them on January 3rd, 2021. So King Henry has good history here, and I think that's just what this game comes down to. Is he going to be able to impose his will? I think, I don't think Houston is that impressive. We saw him against Tennessee last week, and I think it was 6-0 near the later stages of that game.
Yeah.
And Tennessee doesn't have a great defense. I think this one being at home, Baltimore knows that they really need this game. And we can look at the passing advantages and stuff like that. I do give Houston a passing advantage. I do give Baltimore a slight rushing advantage. I give Baltimore a slight third down conversion advantage, red zone conversion advantage, and red zone attempts per game advantage. But that number could be a little skewed since LJ is not playing in this game. I could be completely wrong about this game. Well, I guess I could be completely wrong about any game. But look, I trust Cooper Rush. I trust Cooper Rush enough.
Touchdown, Minnesota. That was crazy.
I trust Cooper Rush enough to manage this game and put Baltimore in a position to win. And I trust Derrick Henry in this one as well. And basically, in pretty much a kind of a must-win game for Baltimore. It feels, if I'm getting those vibes, it feels that way. I like their history against Houston. 13-2 all time against them, 6 in a row. Stroud is 0-3 against Baltimore, including a playoff loss. So if you guys do want to go with Houston today, look, I don't see anything that tells me to say no to you on that. I would just have to lean towards Baltimore in this one. What about you, JB?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you. From seeing Cooper Rush out there, wow, Akers just threw a touchdown pass, running back. After seeing, what he has done for Dallas and stuff like that, I like Cooper Rush. I almost thought a couple times that Cooper Rush should have been the starter instead of Dak, but hey, I'm not a coach, right? Nor do I work for the NFL. But yeah. So that being said, I'm going with Baltimore. I agree with you full-heartedly with the running game, Cooper Rush. I think he could take advantage of his weapons. I like it. Give me Baltimore.
Yeah, and I know Baltimore's been struggling defensively, so that's my biggest concern. Houston necessarily hasn't been impressing me with their offense. And I just think the experience here, Cooper Rush and Derrick Henry will get to CJ Stroud in this one. But Charby mentioned Woody Marks. Look, Woody Marks, I think, is in a great situation today, and so is Chubb in regards to receiving yards and or receptions. Woody Marks Um, well, let's start with Chubb real quick. He ranks first in running back targets on Houston, fifth on the team. He ranks fifth in target share on the team, first in running back targets on Houston, and leads Houston running backs in receptions. But Woody Marks is right behind him. He got a big workload increase last week. Maybe some of that has to do with blowing out Tennessee, but it really wasn't because it was a kind of a close game until the later stage. I think Woody Marks, man, I think he's in a good spot today, specifically with receiving. Yeah, I could see Chubb and Woody Marks doing good on the ground. I could, but I don't know if this Baltimore rush defense is as bad as what we really think. They've played Detroit this season, who's got a great rushing attack. They've played Buffalo this season, who's got a good rushing attack. They played the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs ran the ball pretty well against them.
166 yards altogether.
Yeah, I think it probably had to do a little bit of both in that. The Chiefs.
Well, I mean, everybody knows a lot of that. I think our leading rusher was Xavier Worthy, right? A lot of that had to do with Xavier Worthy coming back.
Good point. And that gets back to my point of is this Baltimore rush defense that bad? We'll find out today. Give me Baltimore in this one on that spread, JB. Do you think Houston wins this game by 2+, or are you going Baltimore?
I'm gonna go Baltimore.
Yeah, Texans haven't impressed me either. Blessed up be. If they get this win though, I'll put them on the radar. But they got to prove this one to me. All right. Tennessee at Arizona. I said on the show when we did our first look show, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, that I was thinking about going Tennessee in this game. Now, when we look at all of the analytics, sure, Arizona has a passing advantage in this game. Arizona has a rushing advantage in this game. They have third down conversion, red zone attempts, red zone conversion, sacks on the quarterback, turnover differential. Everything is leaning towards Arizona getting this win today. But I just got this weird feeling, man. Everybody thinks that this is a gimme game. Everybody thinks that Tennessee is bad, even their own quarterback. I saw him in an interview, post-game interview, I think it was, and he was just saying, look, guys, we're a bad team. We have to play better. We're just bad. And I think everybody is going to have the Cardinals winning this game. But look, Trey Benson, out. James Conner, out. That's big, man.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people are not necessarily going with the Cardinals because they like the Cardinals in this game. They're going against the Titans. They're going against the Titans.
Yeah, that's well. I mean, I don't know because, I mean, they are 2-2. I mean, the Titans are 0-4. The Titans are just I mean, I guess I agree with that. I mean, they're not. It's not really saying. I mean, I don't know. The Cardinals are not trash, It's just they are the better team. The Titans look so bad, man. They need to get rid of Bill Callahan. I was expecting a lot more.
I think everybody once again is going to be on Arizona this game. Everybody's going against the Titans. Look, man, the Titans were hanging around with Houston there for a little bit last week.
Yeah, I mean, I like Cam Ward. It's just, dude, I just don't think Callahan knows how to be a coach.
And when we compare Houston's pass defense to Arizona's pass defense, Houston ranked 7th best in passing yards allowed per game, right? That's who Tennessee played last week. Cam Ward had to go up against the 7th best pass defense in regards to yards per game allowed. Well, this week he's getting an easier matchup. He's going up against the Arizona Cardinals, who allow the 32, 31, 30, 29, the 5th most receiving passing yards per game to opposing teams. So I think, he's in a better situation in this game in regards to his passing capabilities. Now, Arizona's got a good rush defense. Okay. So I do think, Cam Ward, he's going to have to get busy through the air. And
Wow, Judkins just took it off to the house.
Amanor is a rookie wide receiver for this Tennessee team. He leads the team in target share, especially if Ridley's out of this game. Last that I saw, Ridley's questionable. I think that somebody definitely worth looking into is Amanor. Man, I think there's enough doubt in the Titans. Typically, man, when the public feels very, very strongly about one team, I've noticed that the other team at least covers. Not every game, right? We're going to get into the Detroit Lion and Cincinnati game. I just don't think there's a way for Cincinnati to compete in that game. But
No.
Even though the public is going to be heavily on Detroit that game, I'm going to be rolling with Detroit in that game too. I think Detroit wins in a blowout. But, dude, something's telling me this game just is a red flag. Give me the Titans plus 7.5 here. Do you think Arizona blows them out? Do you think Arizona's that good? Do you think Tennessee's that bad, JB? To where Arizona wins this game by 8+? I think
Arizona definitely wins. I mean, they're ranked 9th in turnover differential. They're ranked 17th in defensive interceptions.
Yeah.
It's in 20th in sacks. But I mean, you go to their offense. Their Titans are just bad. They're the worst offense.
There's usually one game every week that during the noon games and the 3 o'clock games where it completely just people are like, what? And I think this is the game. And that's a bold take. That's a hot take of mine, But I just think, man, everybody is putting Arizona in their tickets, and that's going to be the one that falls.
Yeah, give me Tennessee. Tennessee is going to get dubbed this week. Give me Tennessee.
Yeah, and I think, man, I just think that the media is trying to portray Tennessee as this bad team, and even their own quarterback is portraying to be this bad team. And then this week they just come back and at least cover. Wouldn't be surprised to see Tennessee win. Once again, hot take. If you want to go with the analytical approach on this game, oh man, I mean Arizona, every aspect of the game,
right,
is better than Tennessee. But yeah, give me Tennessee, man. All right, moving on. Tampa Bay at Seattle. Seattle leads the all-time series 9-6 against Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield has a 0-2 all-time record against the Seahawks, according to StatMuse. However, Darnold is 0-3 against the Bucs. Bucky Irving is out of this game, and so is Mike Evans. Two huge absences for this Tampa Bay team. It is in Seattle, the 12th man. And Charby and I have been talking about this game a little bit more than the other games throughout the week, and I have to lean towards Seattle in this game. JB, what are you thinking?
Yeah, me too. I'm going Seattle. I think I went with them earlier this week. I'm sticking by them.
Kenneth Walker. His over-under on receiving yards last that I checked was 10.5. He has gone over that in 3 out of 4 games this season. He's gone over that in 8 out of 12 games in 2024. And in his only career game against Tampa Bay, he had 55 receiving yards. Also, Tampa Bay allows the second most receiving yards to running backs this year, and that is Tampa Bay's biggest vulnerability when teams are passing against them this season. So if you like Kenneth Walker for those receiving yards, I could see him getting that. A concern that I have is that Seattle ranks 31st in passing play percentage, which means that they call the second highest amount of rushing plays out of any team in the league. But that doesn't mean that they don't pass the ball, right? And
right.
I think, they're going to be looking to target that vulnerability with Tampa Bay when they do pass. On the flip side, Rashad White. We mentioned Bucky Irving's out. Rashad White through the air also looks like it's doable. Tampa Bay ranked 17th in passing play percentage, so they're pretty balanced relative to the other teams in the league. But Seattle allows the most receiving yards to running backs. They allow the most receptions to running backs. So I think Rashad White, if you guys like him, you got that working for you. But another Seattle defensive vulnerability is that tight end position. They allow the most receptions to tight ends. They allow the most receiving touchdowns to tight ends this year. And they rank 10th worst in receiving yards allowed to tight ends, which brings us to Cade Otton. I think, Cade Otton, his receiving line was 23.5 last that I saw. I think with Evans being out, that's beneficial for him. Same with Bucky. Also, he went over that line in 11 out of 15 games in 2024. He went over that line in his only career game against Seattle. He ranks 4th on this team in target share, but 3rd now since Evans and Bucky's out. But I think Godwin will probably surpass him in target share after this game. Receptions, too. Last that I checked, they were at 2.5. He went over that in 9 out of 15 games in 2024. He had 3 receptions for 35 yards in his only career game against Seattle. I think Cade Otton, if you guys like him, he's definitely somebody worth looking at. Charby is in the chat over here. Baker Mayfield over 18.5 rushing yards. He went over that in 3 out of 4 games this season, 11 out of 18 last year. He went over that in 1 out of 2 career games against Seattle, and he also rushed it for a touchdown in that game. That is Charby's. When we were talking earlier, that was Charby's, one of his favorite plays. So not necessarily something that I would be looking to zone in on today, but I could see it happening. Passing advantage, I don't really see a passing advantage for either team. I see Tampa Bay has a slight rushing advantage, but with Bucky being out, that could be closer than what's on paper. At the end of the day, I see Seattle has a good-sized red zone conversion advantage. Seattle has a slight red zone attempts per game advantage, a slight sacks on the quarterback advantage, and a slight turnover differential advantage. I think there are more advantages for Seattle than Tampa Bay in this game. Give me Seattle. What are you thinking about, JB? Seattle or Tampa Bay? Do you think Seattle wins this game by 3+ points?
Yeah, I got Seattle. I think there's too many key players out for Baker. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then on the road, it'd be different if they were at home. It'd also be different if they weren't missing these injuries or missing these guys.
Yep. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly how I'm feeling too. Moving on, Detroit at Cincinnati. So, I mean, I see so many advantages for Detroit in this game. I don't know how this would be my survivor pick. We had a survivor league that's ended now, but that would be my pick this week. Detroit, since I hadn't used them yet. Detroit, huge passing advantage. Detroit, huge. This is probably my favorite player prop in this game too. We'll get to that. Detroit, huge rushing advantage. Detroit, big third down conversion advantage. Detroit, sizable red zone conversion advantage. A huge red zone attempts per game advantage. Huge sacks on the quarterback advantage. Huge turnover differential advantage. I think Detroit wins this game by 65 points. No, I'm kidding, but seriously, I wouldn't be surprised to see a 50-6 score here. And I think this is a good game for Detroit Lions anytime touchdown scores, specifically David Montgomery. This is probably my favorite player out of any player today to get an anytime touchdown. Okay, now it is heavily juiced. Last I saw was like -190 or something around that range. But dude, I think this is a very good spot for David Montgomery. Let me go into it a little bit here. Why do I feel like the Bengals go up 14-0? Hey, maybe they do, man. Maybe this is the game. But, dude, let's get into this David Montgomery stuff. So this game is in Cincinnati, okay? And David Montgomery is from Cincinnati. So this is somewhat of a home game for David Montgomery. He ranks 6th in rushing yards per carry, and Cincinnati ranks 21st in opponent rushing yards per attempt, okay? Cincinnati ranks 2nd worst in rushing yards allowed to running backs, and Detroit calls a high percentage of rushing plays compared to the other teams in the league. They rank 28th in passing play percentage. Also, they're projected to win this game by 10.5 points or so. Let's continue with this analysis here. Now, David Montgomery rushing yards, 52.5 last I saw. He's gone over that in 2 out of 4 games this season. Only went over that in 6 out of 15 games in 2024, but he's gone over that in 1 career game against Cincinnati. Last season, David Montgomery had 6 rushing touchdowns and 15-plus points margin of victory. Basically, what I'm saying is that they were giving David Montgomery the ball last season in blowout games. He's got good history in 2024 in scoring touchdowns in games that were lopsided, okay? He's also coming off of a kind of a bad game. He's gone over this line in 1 career game against Cincinnati, but didn't get a touchdown. He is a touchdown monster on turf. This game is being played on turf. I'm seeing that Montgomery is an absolute touchdown monster on turf. He had 11 rushing touchdowns off 145 carries in 2024 compared to 1 touchdown on 40 carries on grass. So his turf to grass splits last season were, incrementally bigger when he was on turf. And here's a fun fact. Last season, he didn't have back-to-back games without a touchdown. And he hasn't had a back-to-back game without a touchdown this season. And he's coming off of a game where he didn't have a touchdown. So David Montgomery, anytime touchdown. David Montgomery, rushing yards is, something that I love today. And that's not to say that I don't like Gibbs. I think Gibbs is in a good spot as well. But what if this game is 30-0 at halftime?
Yeah, and they don't get him started early. That's why I look at these games, man. If the guy don't get started before the first half or is over, or maybe even into the second quarter, I think their day is pretty much done. You know what I mean? Not say that they're done, but the target's obviously the window of opportunity for him down. But man, Gibbs was that guy.
I just don't see any way Cincinnati gets it done. They rank worst in rushing yards per game. Detroit has a good rush defense. Cincinnati ranks 3rd worst in passing yards per game. Detroit has an above average pass defense in regards to yards allowed per game. I mean, that's all I got to say about this one, man. Give me the Lions. Honestly, the line is 11. Give me the Lions by at least, double that, dude. Give me the Lions by, I really wouldn't be surprised to see him win by 30 plus. And I love Montgomery anytime touchdown. And that's all I got to say about it. Do you have any other thoughts on that, JB? Is that where you're leaning, Detroit?
Yeah.
I'm just not going to overthink this one.
It ain't even a lean. I fully felt on it.
Now, if you guys do think Cincinnati is going to get this upset, I got a couple of things for you here. They've won 7 games in a row against Detroit, and they've won the last 9 out of 10 games against Detroit. They lead the all-time series 10-3 against Detroit. So, if you're thinking about, going with Cincinnati today just to surprise everybody, you got those things going for you. Let's move on. Washington at Chargers. Washington leads the all-time series 7-5 against the Chargers. Herbert is 1-0 in his career against Washington. Jaden Daniels is questionable, but is expected to play. Last that I checked, McLaurin is out. The Chargers are coming off a somewhat embarrassing loss to the Giants last week. Do you think they bounce back here, JB? I see that the Chargers have a big passing advantage. I see Washington has a big rushing advantage.
Yeah, I think the oh man, yeah, I think the Chargers win it. Um, Washington's missing too many pieces. I know JD5 is back this week, but really, how healthy is he? You know what I mean? And then you have oh, what's his face, man? Oh, I just turned on blank.
It's all right, but
Um, no, Scary Terry, right? No Scary Terry. JD5's just not coming back. How healthy really is he really? Um, I don't know about Joe Alt. If Joe Alt will be back yet? No, he's out. He's out. I just seen that. Um,
you mentioned Jaden Daniels, JB, and this is
mhm,
his first game back.
mhm.
The reason why I thought the Giants were there were multiple reasons why I thought the Giants would cover that spread against the Giant or against the Chargers last week and possibly win. One
Uh,
of those reasons is because, as I mentioned earlier and on that previous show, the Chargers allow a lot of rushing yards to quarterbacks. This feels like that game that Justin Fields played against Miami, and when it was his first game back from that concussion protocol, people are a little hesitant to go with a player like Justin Fields rushing yards whenever it's his first game back. They want to make sure that he's healthy and he's good to go. I like that too, Charby. That he's healthy and good to go before they make any plays on him. But I don't have any in my eyes. Jaden Daniels would not be in this game if he wasn't healthy and he couldn't rush the ball. I think it's a very playable spot. Justin Field or Jaden Daniels rushing yards over 44 and a half. Charby and I looked into this a little bit last season. He had an injury on that game. After that injury, he still ran the ball well. So he's proven off injury he can run the ball. He's gone over this line in more games than he did not last season. Mahomes torched the Chargers' rush defense, and Dark did good too against the Chargers' quarterback rush defense. I mean, we're talking about Patrick Mahomes tore him up in week 1, if you remember that, man. So I think Jaden Daniels, I mean, he's one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the league. I think this is a great spot for him, even though I'm leaning towards the Chargers getting this win. I think this is a great spot for Jaden Daniels rushing. Now, Charby says Quentin Johnston, and I really like Quentin Johnston in this game.
My thing about Jaden Daniels is, I mean, he's only throwing 59.7 completion percentage. He's only thrown 3 touchdowns. What injury did he come back off of last year and then absolutely, then take off running? Comparison to what he just had now. What are the differences between these two injuries?
I feel like he had ribs last season. Wasn't it something with his ribs?
Yeah, he had a couple of things. Actually, he's not been a very sturdy quarterback. I'm just saying.
And this one is knee. This one's knee.
Yeah.
But do you really think he's going to be playing in this game if he wasn't fully capable of?
Yeah.
That he's
Yeah.
capable of?
What do you mean RG3? Do you not remember? I know it's different. Coach. It's different ownership, but it's still the same organization. Okay. Yeah, I do believe that no matter what, I mean, obviously that if he couldn't bend his knee or put any type of weight on it, right, they would be like, hey, yeah, you're not going in, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
Like, we know that. But we also know that a walkthrough in practice is not you running full speed and having people at 300, 200 something pounds throwing their bodies at your knee, at your leg. holding on to your ankle, trying to spin and turn. He may start. I don't know. I know he's missed 2 games. The reason being, I think that they're even trying to get him back out there and make sure he's out there so he doesn't accumulate too much rust, right? That way he can stay up in it. I don't like Jaden Daniels coming back. I don't like Jaden Daniels versus their defense. Um, I think what's his name? I want to say Quentin Jammer, but it's not Quentin Jammer. Dude out there in the Chargers, their secondary safety, right? I think that he picks the ball off, and I think Jaden Daniels has a bad game, man. I think the Chargers rebound and bounce back. They kind of got slapped in the face and a little embarrassment, I think. Especially with Herbert and Jackson Dart. But um, yeah, I'm not sold on just because he's back that he's 100% or that they wouldn't put him back in. You know what I mean? Just because
Wow.
of history, and history repeats itself.
Yeah.
He got the same type of quarterback.
Excuse me. So I think that he will have trouble through the air as well. I think the only thing that he'll have going for him today is his rushing attack. And that's, a big reason why I do like the Chargers in this game. And I also see the Chargers have a big third down conversion advantage. I see they have a big red zone attempts per game advantage, a slight sacks advantage. Somebody I was looking at for the Chargers, Quentin Johnston. Washington allows the most yards per completion to opposing teams this year. Quentin Johnston ranks 13th in yards per catch in the NFL. So I think he's in a great spot today to pick up good chunks of yardage when he does receive the ball. He's gone over that 64.5 receiving total in 4 out of 4 games this season. I think, and Washington allows the 9th most receiving yards to wide receivers. Washington ranked 27th in passing yards allowed per game. I think, Quentin Johnston is definitely somebody on my radar. So Quentin Johnston receiving yards and Jaden Daniel rushing yards is the way that I would be looking in these games, in this game. But overall, give me the Chargers to bounce back here. I wouldn't be surprised to see Washington win this one, but I have to lean towards the Chargers in it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going Chargers. I'm definitely going Chargers. And I agree. Quentin Johnson, man, he hasn't disappointed me yet this regular season.
All right, let's move on here. Sunday Night Football. I'm gonna let you guys know now. I like New England to cover the spread. New England leads the all-time series 79-51-1 against Buffalo. Buffalo has won the last 7 out of 10 meetings against New England. I think this is a good spot for anytime touchdowns for either team. And the reason why I say that is because of the red zone attempts per game. Both of these teams get into the red zone often, and both of these teams are tied for 8th best in red zone conversion rates. I feel I've been really good on my primetime picks this year, guys, and I feel confident about this one, about New England covering. I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I've missed a couple of games this year. I've missed 2 or 3 primetime games. But overall, that's just what I'm feeling the most comfortable in this season is prime times. Now, I do think New England's going to struggle passing the ball because Buffalo ranks first in passing yards allowed per game. But Buffalo, they have a big rushing defensive vulnerability. They rank 2nd worst in rushing yards allowed per game. Now, I'm not saying New England's doing great at rushing the ball, but if they were to do great, this is a good game to do it. Ramondre Stevenson, Travion Henderson, and even Drake May, rushing yards. My upset of the week: Patriots offense and defense are decent. Buffalo D sus, says Charby. Somewhere in my deep loins, I think Patriots win, says Charby. Divisional game. I think a lot of people are going to like Buffalo in this game, and yeah, man, I just
It's a divisional game,
Yeah.
you know. And he said, "God's playing. Give me Drake." Ugh. Um,
I just want to say before you get started, real quick, Buffalo does have a lot of advantages, guys. I mean,
yeah,
the passing advantage, rushing advantage. We're talking about, I mean,
turnover
third down
differential,
conversion. Yeah, everything.
time
Everything across the board.
possession, yards per game,
Yep.
points per game. Except for total defensive interceptions.
Yeah. I'm
Patriots
sure
rank
there's
eighth.
something that you can find in favor of
Patriots
New England here.
rank eighth with 3. This is a divisional game. Let's go through this. So Josh Allen's only thrown the ball or thrown 1 interception this year, right? But he's also lost a fumble. So he has 2 turnovers, and he's been sacked 7 times. I think the Patriots get a couple of ints off of it, right? Um, and I like the Patriots with this being a primetime game. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get something started. I like. I think Allen has a little mishap this game. New England inches their way up just a little bit closer to the divisional total.
I mean, it's dangerous going against Josh Allen. Don't get
It
me.
is. It is. But what did we see last week? The 0-4 Saints.
Yeah, covered against
Yeah,
Buffalo.
you were you were nervous about that game. You were over there like, wow, how is this
Yeah, they were my
happening? How is
survivor
this
pick.
going on?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And
They were
you know,
playing down. They were playing down, like you were talking
yeah,
about at the beginning of the show.
yeah,
Playing down to their opponent's level of style of play.
yep. So I think New England can catch them in this and in a little trap. I'm not saying that this is a trap game, but I think this is good for New England. I think New England gets a good solid win right here in the division, help them build on for their season, to go on.
I don't
Good
know if New
confidence
England.
booster.
I don't know if New England wins this game, but I do like them to cover. The last I saw it was 7.5. So New England plus 7.5. Some props I'm thinking about is Ramondre Stevenson over rushing yards 32.5. He's gone over that line in 10 out of 15 games in 2024, and he's gone over that line in 5 out of 6 career games against Buffalo. I also think Drake May, is somebody that we have to look at here. I mentioned that Buffalo, and I think this is a big advantage for New England. Mentioned that Buffalo ranks 31st in rushing yards allowed per game. They rank 30th in opponent rushing yards per attempt, and Drake May ranks 6th best in rushing yards per carry out of all of the quarterbacks in the league. He's averaging about 6 carries per game.
Wow.
That's exactly what he's averaging, 6 carries per game. And Buffalo allows the most rushing yards to quarterbacks. I like this spot for Drake May to get over his rushing line. I think Ramondre Stevenson has a good shot to get over his. If I were to have to pick between both of them, I would probably lean towards more Stevenson since he has better history. But what would you rather have, better current data or history? Typically, I want both, but and then I would probably prioritize current data and then historical data for sure. But I think Ramondre Stevenson is in a pretty good spot as well. And then Josh Allen rushing yards over under 29.5. Here's the thing. He's got good history in against New England rushing the ball. He's had 30 plus rushing yards in 8 out of 13 games against New England throughout history. However, New England ranks second best in rushing yards allowed to quarterbacks. So this is a tall task for Josh Allen to get those rushing yards in this game. I think, somebody that I would probably look at for Buffalo is probably in the passing game. Even though Buffalo loves to call a high percentage of rushing plays, I think that they're going to have to pass the ball against this New England defense, who ranks second best in rushing yards allowed per game. I think they're going to have trouble with running the ball with James Cook and Josh Allen. I think they're going to have to force Josh Allen to pass the ball. And I think Josh Allen will do pretty well against the 26th ranked New England passing yards allowed per game defense. And I think, a good spot is if you like a receiving back for Buffalo. That's where New England is vulnerable. They rank 9th worst in receiving yards allowed to running backs and 4th worst in receptions allowed to running backs. Also, tight ends. If you like the Buffalo tight ends tonight, New England ranks 7th worst in receiving yards allowed to tight ends and 10th worst in receptions allowed to tight ends. Those are their two biggest vulnerabilities through the air. Their number one biggest defensive vulnerability, New England, is receptions allowed to running backs relative to the other teams in the league. I'm not saying that, I'm not even going to try to explain it, but basically they rank 4th worst in receptions allowed to running backs, whereas they rank 7th worst in receiving yards allowed to tight ends. So based on where they rank relative to other teams in the league at guarding a specific position, those are their two weakest spots. Buffalo pass defense, great. They rank 1st in passing yards allowed per game. Their biggest vulnerability through the air, I mean, it looks like it's receptions allowed to running backs. But I'm not necessarily looking for New England to target Buffalo through the air in this one. I'm kind of just, looking for New England to establish that ground game. Final score prediction in this New England Buffalo game.
Oh man, I'm gonna go final score. I'm gonna say 21-24 New England.
I guess
they've been in some really close games. I mean, besides week 1, they blew out Carolina, but I mean they lost to the Steelers. Not week 1, week 4 they blew out Carolina. Week 3 they lost to the Steelers by a tutty. They were in a tight game against the Finns in week 2, and yet again in week 1. I don't really hold it against them. They lost by a tutty. So they're in there. I'm not saying that these teams are comparable to Josh Allen or the Buffalo Bills, right? I'm not saying that at all. But the Steelers have, they ain't been no punk, in years. And the Miami game, I don't know, man. I like New England, bro. I really do. Drake May has a higher completion percentage. Him and Allen have both thrown same amount of touchdowns. Drake May's thrown more yards. He's thrown one more interception. I think they have the same amount of turnovers. Diggs needs to get in that end zone, though. He needs to.
Buffalo has scored at least 30 points in every game this season. So but I think they're going up against a pretty decent run defense. So give me Buffalo to score 30 points in this game. Give me New England to score 30-24 Buffalo.
Last time they met up, New England beat them 23-16.
And then we'll do a segment tomorrow if you want to, JB, on the Chiefs game tomorrow night.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
I think it's Travis Kelce's birthday today. Speaking of birthdays.
His too?
Yeah. Yeah, October 5th. Happy birthday, Travis Kelce.
That's crazy. Today's my girl's birthday.
Wow.
Yep. I didn't know she shared one with Travis Kelce. That's interesting. She might like that. Who knows?
Well, any other words, JB? You want to let people know about the?
Yeah, up in the oh well, hold on before I do this. Okay. Top left hand corner, mybookie.ag. You guys go on over there, drop, hit this QR code up at the top left hand corner, snap a shot, promo code not moved. Their terms and conditions, just like BetUS's, are different than some other ones. Check them out, read them. MLB Shop, we're also partners with MLB Shop. Get the QR codes again, guys. QR codes um are up here. This is for MLB Shop. Get your cards, trading cards, memorabilia. I know it's October, man. It's playoff season right now. It's pretty big. You can get all that stuff. Enter promo code not moved. Use the QR code as well as the NFL shop. You guys were also in there with the NFL shop. Same thing. QR codes up there. Shout out to BetUS for partnership. Walmart.com. Shout out to Walmart.com. We got some other things, man. I'm gonna be. We got some more shows coming on. We got a show here, getting closer to kickoff for the later games, the noon games. Um, we're on all social platforms. We also got a new website with merch. You guys check us out on TikTok. We're also on Fourth Wall, Not Move Podcast Shop, fourthwall.com. Get all your merchandise, up-to-date news with Not Moved. You can, if you guys want specific questions, get a hold of certain people, Not Moved, like bettors. I'm working on certain things to where you could literally just go to the site. If you had a question for bettors, you had a question for South, you had fantasy questions for Otis or Chief or A-Train, there's going to be an area where it just literally, you just click on that link, you type in your message, and it goes straight to them. They get back with you as soon as they're available. We got a lot of big things going on for Not Moved, you guys. Bettors, I don't really have anything else at this moment.
Well, I know you said you guys you have some more shows on the Not Move podcast coming up.
Yep.
Guys, these guys in the Not Move podcast are very knowledgeable when it comes to sports. And you know that I like to look at statistics and all that. Well, some of these guys, man, they look at things that I do not have time to look at, such as the coverage on what teams play. You know what I mean? Cover two, this quarterback's record when he plays a cover three pass heavy team and stuff like that. So I think that information is very beneficial. And they have great informative shows. They really do. Shout out to A-Train. Shout out to Coach Common, Dollface Gremlin. I mean, you name it. Jaw, Otis, the whole team, man. The whole team. If I didn't mention your name, I'll try to remember it next time. Who am I forgetting, JB? Who else do we have?
Boy, man, we got Dollface Gremlin. I gotta shout out that him and Coach. They do some amazing Pittsburgh content. You guys, not even just that, but I know
I love their
Coach does Coach's Corner, where he kind of like he's a coach for for football, and he gets do this Coach's Corner to kind of relate with the disconnection between the players, the coaches, and the parents. It helps you release them. No, shout out to Bo though from No Man, fantasy sports football. We appreciate him when he comes on, and No Man as a whole, but yeah, man, there Dollface Gremlin,
Oh, shout out Southgate.
Southgate,
Just
yes.
everybody, man. All of you.
Dollface Gremlin, though, we're about
Jimmy.
to be dropping the new hit for NHL. He's going to be starting NHL next week, I believe.
Most proud.
We will be announcing that.
Big shout out, Most Proud.
Yeah, Tinez, Moss, WNBA. He'd be doing shows with Sports Haven, YT, YouTube. Um, uh, it's awesome, man. It's awesome. We got a lot of things going on. So we really appreciate you guys because realistically, at the end of the day, we're just sitting here just talking.
Yeah.
There ain't nothing without y'all listening.
Yeah,
Putting
absolutely.
your inputs. So
Yeah, big shout out to everybody in chat.
Jimmy with the UFC, Jimmy with the Titans. Jimmy does a lot of things. You got Robert and Jaw. They do WWE. You got Jimmy and Otis on Saturday mornings. They do their college game day breakdown. Bettors, Charby and myself, we do first look. Wednesdays. Usually we try to do about Wednesdays, give our first look on what's going on, from Thursday on, and just not even really breaking it out anything. Just like your first take. We just give it our first look. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, big shout out to the people in chat too, man. All the
yeah,
viewers, Blessed Up P. Big shout out to Blessed Up P.
yes.
Cody Briscoe, Alexa Volk. I mean, the list goes on. People, we have, Matt Charbonneau. We have Michael was in the chat earlier.
Yeah.
Grissom, really appreciate you guys, and hopefully, you guys find this information beneficial. I sure do, and anything else, JB? I'm not moved.
I'm not moved either. Hey, we appreciate you, Blessed Up for real.
Community parlay to end the show. He says David Montgomery touchdown, anytime touchdown.
Montgomery, I like
and New England to cover.
I like I like that oh man, Carson Wentz just ran into the tunnel. I like what you call it. You said it earlier, man, and I told everybody in the Not Move podcast, man. I like obviously the 2-0 for 1.5 rushing yards. That's gold. You know what I mean? Dude always is taking off. I like Josh Allen anytime touchdown. He's always getting in that sucker. And I like Indianapolis winning. Covering.
I mean, my favorite props, I'll just scroll through my sheet here and then we'll get out of here. My favorite props that I saw throughout this game, Judkins was one of them, rushing yards. Let me see what else here. Kamara, rushing yards. Garrett Wilson, receiving yards. J.K. Dobbins, rushing yards. Although I wouldn't say this. It's up there with my favorite. I don't know if it's in the top 5 or not. Rico Dowdle, rushing yards. Derrick Henry, rushing yards.
Yeah. I like Derrick Henry anytime touchdown as well. I think with without Cooper Rush, or with Cooper Rush without Lamar, especially in the goal line situations.
Montgomery, anytime touchdown and rushing yards. That's my favorite. Quentin Johnston, receiving yards, I think is pretty good. And I mean, that's about does it. Once again, thank you guys so much for joining. I stay not moved.
Always not moved.
This non-casual podcast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or reused without the authorized written consent of the Not Moved Podcast Network. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.